Time travel! What?
Hey, welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy, and we are here to talk about, what was it again? Well, thank you. Time travel in The Flash. So we have been getting a lot of questions about time travel in the Flash movie because, well, it's really confusing. The movie employs several different kinds of time travel to tell its story, and we are here to explain them all to you.
I mean, what the hell is going on?
And by the way, everybody, don't forget to visit our merch store. We've got really fun Flash-related merch like this Fetch shirt, the Be Kind, Don't Rewind, and you want to play Fetch? Let's play Fetch shirts. Link in the description. So let's talk about time travel. We fielded a lot of questions about time travel after Avengers Endgame explaining branching timelines. And now this movie completely upends all of that with the scene where Michael Keaton actually says, you probably saw a movie that explained time travel as branching timelines, but that's not right.
Is that your Michael Keaton impression?
No. Been working on it for a long time. So The Flash actually does employ this kind of branching timeline travel, but it also combines different types of time travel from other movies. So I'm going to explain each type of time travel that's used in this movie and going to make it all make sense for you. And I want to quickly shout out the channel's Minute Physics for their great breakdown of different kinds of time travel, and New Rockstars, who also have a great video breaking down different types of time travel in movies. So let's start with the one that we're all probably most familiar with, causality theory. This is like in Hot Tub Time Machine or Back to the Future. If you travel back in time to your past, then you can actually change your past, and kind of like Marty McFly, you could erase yourself from existence. This kind of time travel is easier for most people to understand because we are linear beings who perceive time as a fixed one-way motion. So for instance, if this thread represents my timeline and somebody goes back in time to kill me, then my life is severed and I cease to exist. In The Flash, we see this causality with Other Barry. He gets a scar in the past, so a scar appears on his future self.
Yeah, why did that happen to him, but like not to the rest of the universe?
Well, Doug, because, like Marty McFly, both Barrys are a fulcrum in time, which I'll explain in just a bit. Okay, now one thing that I noticed here is if you look really...
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Oh, I gotta find out what that smell is. I quit, I'm on a journey.
No, Doug, come back, it's me. Oh, well, I guess he's gone forever.
I'm back.
Oh, hello.
So you're the one who smells like rose water, Kona coffee?
Yes, and incense and wild violet. See, Doug, that's my cologne. It's called Grandmaster by Mind Games. It's a very high-end fragrance, but I was able to get it through Scentbird, the sponsor of this video. This is a great service for a guy like me because I have no idea what makes for a good cologne, and cologne is very expensive, so I did not want to drop a lot of money on a pricey bottle. Scentbird is a fragrance subscription service that lets you skip any month without penalties. If you're new to wearing cologne, this is a great way to start. Now, to educate me about the cologne, they send along a descriptive card that explains the ingredients and the proper occasion to wear the cologne. This month I received Sexual Secret Man by Michelle Germain. It's got ingredients like grapefruit, Indonesian nutmeg, Indian sandalwood, and these bottles are so easy to use. You just twist and spray, and there it is. Now these samples are actually 8 times bigger than a normal sample size you get at a store. You can choose a designer fragrance every month for just $17. You get a 30-day supply and you get to pick what you want to receive, so there's no surprises. This is a great way to learn about cologne, find out what you like, without spending hundreds of dollars for a bottle. So if you want to give Scentbird a try, use this QR code and use our codes CRUSH55 and click the link in the description to get 55% off. That's just over $7 for your first month, available in the USA and Canada. Thanks again to Scentbird for sponsoring this video, and check out those sample links below.
You really do smell great.
Thanks, buddy. High five. Now, the next type of time travel is the branching reality, and this is what we saw in Avengers Endgame. Bruce explained it like this.
Changing the past doesn't change the future. And your former present becomes the past, which can't now be changed by your new future.
So this explanation still confuses people, and I think kind of on purpose. Bruce is saying that it's impossible for you to ever change your own timeline because this would create a paradox. Like if you invented a time machine and then you traveled back in time to prevent yourself from building a time machine, you're not actually undoing your past. You're creating an alternate timeline where you don't ever get to time travel. Now, in the MCU, every time you time travel, it causes a branching timeline, which becomes a new universe. That also happens in The Flash, but in a different way. I'll explain that in just a bit.
Yeah, I still don't get it.
Okay, buddy, let's say this paper towel roll represents the flow of time. It's your birth, your death, Julius Caesar, Megan the Stallion, all are in here. And this thread represents your life, and you can see it's moved here throughout the timeline, right? So when you time travel, it's like you've punched a hole in your past. You're still the same thread that's traveling through the timeline, but you are still you. You are still this thread. But that hole you punctured in the timeline results in a variant of yourself that then gets to travel throughout time in a new branching timeline, which, like I said, in the MCU is a new universe. This took me a really long time to make. So the next type of time travel is when something like had always happened in the past. This is like Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, when Harry, Hermione, and Ron travel back in time to save their past selves' lives, which allows them to later go back in time to save their own past selves' lives. In a way, this is like in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, when they remind themselves to go back later and do things like plant the keys for themselves.
After the report, we'll time travel back to 2 days ago, steal your dad's keys, and leave him here.
Or like how Rufus never actually introduces himself, but Bill and Ted tell their past selves Rufus's name, so they always know what his name is.
Listen to this dude, Rufus. He knows what he's talking about.
Now, in a way, we also see this happen in The Flash. No matter what, certain events will always occur. Bruce Wayne's parents will always be murdered, and Nora Allen will always die. We've also seen these fated events in movies like Across the Spider-Verse and throughout the MCU. In Across the Spider-Verse, these events are called canon events. They're the moments in every Spider-Person's life that define who they are. Every universe has some version of an Uncle Ben death, for example. Now, in the MCU, these are called absolute points in time. In the show What If, a variant of Stephen Strange tries to avert the death of Christine, eventually destroying an entire universe. This is because her death was an absolute point that was essential in the story of Doctor Strange.
If you erase her death, you never start your journey.
So Phrygian is canon.
I guess so. Heck, even the Arrowverse touched on this in the show Legends of Tomorrow, when Rip Hunter refused to let the group travel back to the crucifixion.
Throughout history, there are certain moments whose integrity are crucial. The birth, life, and death of Jesus Christ are all such moments.
The thing is that if time travel is ever possible, this is actually the type that I think is most likely to be real. That time is a fixed thing, and that if it can be altered, then it has already been altered.
Yeah, I'm not picking up what you're putting down.
Okay, like in The Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan perceives all of time as happening all at once.
We're all puppets, Lori. I'm just the puppet who can see the strings.
For him, it's not a linear line, it's like a giant mosaic drawing. Or like in the excellent Watchmen TV show, John falls in love with Angela because he sees that in the future, she will risk her life for his.
Oh yeah, I gotcha.
And this is also how time travel works in the movie Interstellar. In that movie, humanity eventually, millions of years in the future, evolves into a highly advanced race that perceives time in 4 dimensions. So instead of seeing time as a line, they see it from above, as a flat circle where all events are occurring at once. So they affect the events in the past that allow their species to survive, so they can affect the events in the past. Because, as Mobius says,
and it happens again and again and again because it's supposed to, because it has to.
And we also see this kind of time travel in The Flash. When Barry enters the Chrono Bowl, he essentially becomes a 4th dimensional being who perceives his entire life as all happening at the same time. Just like the Tesseract in Interstellar, when Cooper is able to see his daughter's bedroom at every point of existence. So this is called retro-causality. It's when the effect of an event occurs before its actual cause, which reminds me, I gotta do something really quick. Here you go. So the next kind of time travel is one of my all-time favorites, the time loop. Probably most famous from the movie Groundhog Day, but also in excellent films like The Edge of Tomorrow and Palm Springs. It's even been done on great shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I died? Again?
And Star Trek The Next Generation.
This is highly improbable.
Basically, this kind of time travel means that a character exists outside of time. They retain their memories of a day while the rest of the universe resets and moves around them, kind of restarting every morning. In a way, Phil Connors in Groundhog Day becomes a 4th dimensional being because he is able to perceive all aspects of an entire day.
I'm a god. I'm a god. I'm not the god.
Now, time loops and the it always happened time travel are also similar to prophecy. In Oedipus Rex, Oedipus is told that someday he'll kill his dad and marry his mother, and then, by trying to prevent this fate from happening, he causes it to happen. This is also like Anakin's dreams of Padme's death in Revenge of the Sith. Those dreams make him try to prevent her death, which causes him to fall to the dark side and then cause her death in childbirth.
She has lost the will to live.
Now, both of these examples show a fate that's kind of inevitable, just like in The Flash. No matter what, Kara, Michael Keaton, and Nora will always have to die. But the Flash movie shows that some events can be altered, so there's also the Merida way of thinking of this.
Our fate lives within us.
I'm referring to Barry moving a can of tomatoes so his dad has to look up.
Yeah, why didn't that event break the timeline?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So, the death of Barry's mom made him want to prove his dad's innocence, so he goes to college to become a police scientist, and that led him to becoming the Flash. Flash. But Barry saving his mom's life meant that he never had an interest in criminal justice, he was not at the lab to get the accident, so he never becomes the Flash. So, in effect, his mom's life is never saved. This created what's called an ontological paradox. This paradox is created because Barry tried to change the events that caused him to change events. The whole thing about stopping yourself from inventing a time machine. Barry's dad being exonerated is an event that would occur after he gets his powers, after he travels through time. So there would be no ripple effect that changes history, it only changes the future, which is still being written.
Oh yeah, like Doc Brown said at the end of BWTF3.
Your future hasn't been written yet. No one's has. Your future is whatever you make it.
That's right. So this is also a lot like A Christmas Carol, when Scrooge is shown a possible future that he can still change. Another type of time travel is called the unstuck mind, like Billy Pilgrim and Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-5.
Oh yeah, and Wolverine.
Yes, it's also like Wolverine's consciousness in X-Men Days of the Future Past, when he's able to travel from an apocalyptic future to inhabit the body of his younger self. And in a way, this happens when Barry enters the Chrono Bowl. His consciousness then floats throughout the time stream. Now, a companion to this type is the unstuck body, which is like the movie Tenet, where time flows backward around a person. This is also like the Chrono Bowl in The Flash. Barry creates a protective bubble around himself while time moves around it. Alright, so those are the different types of time travel and how they are used in The Flash. Now let's explain this movie's use of time travel, fulcrum events, and the multiverse, all that weird stuff. So when the movie starts, Barry thinks that time travel is simple causality, like in Back to the Future. You change the past, and then that changes the present. In the MCU, the heroes originally think the same thing.
Why don't we just find baby Thanos, you know, and
And this is because, like, all of us perceive time the same way, as with a beginning, a middle, and an end. But Barry, through the use of the Chrono Bowl, experiences time from the top, seeing it as a sphere where all events occur at the same time. So when we have this paper towel roll and we rotate it to show just this circle, imagine that this end, perceiving time all at once, is a bowl filled with water. And we're going to sprinkle some pepper into this water. Now, each of these little flakes of pepper represent timelines. We don't perceive them as strings because we're looking at the paper towel from above, so it's more like they're individual dots. So each of these flecks of pepper is a person's entire life. This is you, this is me, that's Bruce Springsteen. You get the idea. And this piece of spaghetti is Barry. Again, if you see it from this angle, it's like his normal timeline, but when you look at it this way, it looks like a dot, because this is Barry's entire life occurring at the same time. Looking at it from this angle is like seeing all of time occurring all at once. So if I put Barry in the flow of time here, you'll see that he's just a dot, like all the other flecks of pepper. But Barry is different because he can time travel. So to represent the Chrono Bowl, I am going to cover this piece of spaghetti in some dish soap. So now, when Barry time travels, look what happens. All those different timelines change. Everything moves out of the way. And the more Barry tries to change things, the more he moves, the more disruptive everything gets, and the more things get messed up. This is what happens in the movie. Barry is the fulcrum of all this. It means that he is the one constant that remains unchanged. He is the spaghetti. All of the other changes in here revolve around him. So then, when the other Barry time travels in the movie's climax, he also becomes a fulcrum. So these two idiots are like buzzing around time, changing the time stream, moving things around, causing time to split and fracture. And remember, because all of time happens at once, this sends these fractures into the past and into the future. So now there are realities where there's a different Superman in the 1970s and a new Batman in the 1960s.
But I thought Michael Keaton said that time travel does not create a branching timeline.
And it doesn't. You see, a branching timeline implies the two timelines have a common past, like right here. When what actually happens is, when the timeline splits, it creates a whole new past and a whole new future. And when two people travel through time so much, it causes multiple branching timelines, and hence the multiverse.
So the Flash movie created Adam West Batman and Christopher Reeve Superman?
That's what they're saying.
Okay, one more question. When other Barry's younger self dies, evil Barry fades away. Wouldn't that have just made a new universe or something?
No, because other Barry was also a time traveler, and that makes him a fulcrum. Again, he existed independently from the rest of the flow of time. And this is how the movie brings in that it was always going to happen kind of time travel. The moment these two Barrys travel through time together, they both become part of the same fulcrum. They are tied to each other. So evil Barry was able to knock our Barry out of the Chrono Bowl because in the future they are going to be combined into one single fulcrum. Another way of saying that this was just always going to happen.
Because it's supposed to. Because it has to.
I'm not getting the fulcrum thing. Explain that.
Okay. Okay, so basically, whenever somebody travels through time, they are unaffected by the history they change. Like how Marty McFly doesn't remember his new life in Back to the Future when he gets back to the present.
Right, so Marty McFly is a fulcrum.
Exactly, he's the element that time travels. But in this movie, both of these flashes time travel. They enter the chrono bowl together, and that means that they are both fulcrums, which means they are both outside the normal flow of time, but they can affect each other. See, the chrono bowl is the true fulcrum. It's the place where all of time exists at once, except at its very center. It's like the eye of the hurricane. This is the place where Barry still experiences time in a linear way. See, think of the chrono bowl like a diving bell that allows them to breathe underwater while they're outside the time stream.
Oh, I gotcha. It's like a protective bubble around the ravages of time.
Right, so within that protective bubble, they still experience time in a linear way with normal cause and effect. So, while the rest of time is frozen and all happening at once, other Barry's past self can die and erase his future self.
But wouldn't that prevent evil Barry from knocking Barry out of the chrono bowl?
No, because that event occurred within the chrono bowl, outside of the normal flow of time.
Yeah, okay, so what happens in the chrono bowl happens in the chrono bowl.
And it's always happening all at once, all the time. And thanks again to Scentbird for sponsoring this video. To get your fragrances, check out our link in the description below. But we want to hear from all of you guys. What do you think about all this? Let me know down in the comments or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.